downtown Grand Rapids, the Michigan Debate for Governor, live from the Wood TV 8 studios.
Good evening and welcome to the debate for governor for the state of Michigan. I'm Rick Albin. Tonight will be one of only two opportunities for voters to do a side-by-side comparison of the Democratic and Republican candidates for the state's top spot. From Marquette to Battle Creek to Kalamazoo to Flint and Lansing, Grand Rapids, of course, as well as online, this debate is being aired live right now across the entire state with help from our media partners. Now, here's how the debate will work. Each candidate will receive the same question. The first candidate will have 60 seconds to answer, then we'll move to the candidate number 2 for another 60 seconds. And that will be followed in the same order by a 30-second rebuttal by each. The next question will then be asked to candidate number 2 and will alternate throughout the next hour. Our studio audience is made up of invited guests of the campaign, and they will not participate, demonstrate, or react in any way during the debate, except for now, as I introduce Democratic candidate Senator Gretchen Whitmer and Republican candidate Attorney General Bill Schuette. Thank you both for being here. We had a coin toss earlier, and it was determined that the Attorney General will have the first 2-minute opening statement. Senator Whitmer, you will have the second. The closing statements will be in the same order, with candidate Schuette going first and candidate Whitmer going second. Mr. Attorney General, let's get this long-awaited debate underway with your opening statement, sir.
Well, hi, my name's Bill Schuette, and I'm working very hard to earn your trust to serve as Michigan's next governor. My grandparents were teachers. My mom and dad were high school sweethearts, grew up in the Great Depression, a tough time for Michigan and America. When I was just a boy of 6, my dad died of a heart attack. My mom, she was resilient, kept our family together, and as a single mom, raised my 2 older sisters and me. My wife, Cynthia, and I attended the same bus stop, and she and I, daughter Heidi and son Bill, attended public schools. And all the Schuettes to this day call Midland home. I'm running for governor because I want Michigan to grow. And I want to make sure that people call Michigan their home state, a place they live, not a vacation state, a place they visit. And I want Michigan to be a job state, a paycheck state, and a growth state. In just a few weeks, it's Election Day, and people across Michigan will answer this question: are we going forward or are we going back? Well, I think you know the answer. We're going forward. We can't go back. We lived through one lost decade of the failed governorship of Jennifer Granholm, 500,000 lost jobs, 15% unemployment, and a mass exodus from Michigan. We're not going back. I have a paycheck agenda, and here it is. Cut the Granholm-Whitmer income tax increase, lower auto insurance rates, improve our schools, rebuild our infrastructure, and affordable and accessible health care. My opponent, Gretchen Whitmer and Garland Gilchrist, in a word, folks, extreme. Massive tax hikes which would crush job creation, more mandates which would stop economic growth, and government-run health care. We can't go back. Michigan needs to be a place of growth and opportunity, and we need a common attitude. Michigan needs to be a place of bold aspirations and big goals. And I want Michigan to be the place where people plant their flag and raise their families and build their futures. And hey, we can do this, Michigan, and it's time to win again. Thank you.
Senator Whitmer.
Thank you. Well, I'm running for governor because I love the state of Michigan. I grew up right here in Grand Rapids. My first job was at Burlingame Lumber on 28th Street. I also stocked the shelves at Target, and I worked the line at the Royal Fork Buffet. But my toughest job came when I was 29 years old. I became a member of the sandwich generation, and that simply means I was sandwiched between 2 generations of my own family for whom I was the primary caregiver. My mom at the end of her life and my firstborn daughter at the beginning of hers. My mom was dying of brain cancer, and I had to take on her insurance company for wrongfully denying her chemotherapy. It was a tough time. No one should have to go through that. That's the experience, though, that made me who I am today, that compels the work that I do, that drove me as the Senate Democratic leader to cross the aisle and work with Rick Snyder, a Republican governor, to deliver on Medicaid expansion in our state. Because of our bipartisan work, because of that work, 680,000 people in our state have health care today who didn't before. $2.3 billion of economic activity to our state because of that work, and 30,000 new jobs. I am proud of that work. But make no mistake, health care is on this ballot for governor because my opponent, Bill Schuette, filed 9 lawsuits to repeal the Affordable Care Act. He apparently didn't think 8 lawsuits were enough. He filed 9. He used our taxpayer dollars to try to rip health care away from people, to stop coverage for pre-existing conditions. We cannot afford to go back. It would be bad for business. It would be bad for Michigan families. This is a critical election before us. Tonight, I'm going to try to stay focused on the issues that matter to you and to your family, like cleaning up our drinking water, expanding on health care, making sure we have better skills through better education and training opportunities, and yes, fixing the damn roads. I hope you'll cast your vote for me on November 6th.
Thank you both for your opening statements. This represents the questions that we have received over the past couple of weeks that people want to know about serious issues, about issues that some of you have already brought up. The rules of this debate, however, require me to ask the same question of both of you. And the question I'm about to ask is one that you may not, either of you or both of you may not have the exact facts, but I want to bring this up and I want to get what facts we know about this. Yesterday afternoon, there was a video that was released, as you well know. The timing, I suspect, was not coincidental, but it was a video that was said to be from 1989. We don't know who shot it or where it was taken or exactly what the circumstances around that were. But here's what I do want to know, starting with you, Mr. Attorney General. When did you first become aware of that clip? And how did you become aware of it? And what, if any, impact does that have on this race?
Well, you know, this is a Planned Parenthood Democrat hit job on me. Some, drastically edited video from 30 years ago, and where I was apparently trying to be funny and obviously embarrassed about it. But you know what? The most interesting video would be the one I saw recently about Garland Gilchrist and his dilapidated rental property that ought to be shut down or cleaned up, and it's shameful that he hasn't taken care of his property better. And you know what? The real issues for Michigan is about whether we go forward or going back. And I have a paycheck agenda to make sure that we cut income taxes, that we lower auto insurance rates, and improve our schools. And Gretchen Whitmer, she was in the legislature for 14 years, only passed 3 bills, and has done nothing. And the point is that she wants to drive us back. She wants to repeal right to work. She wants to reinstate the prevailing wage statute and raise taxes. And that would drive us into a ditch. And that's the contrast for Michigan.
Senator, I'll restate the question. In your 30 seconds, perhaps you can get to that too. When did you become aware of this clip? How did you become aware of it? And what impact would it have on this race?
Well, I saw the video a couple of days ago, and it was bizarre. I don't know what else to say about it. I don't know where it came from, but obviously it was filmed back when I was in middle school in in the early 1980s or mid 1980s. I don't even know when it came from. But the fact of the matter is, I don't care about that video. I care about getting to the issues that really matter to the people of this state, like health care, like protecting women's rights, moving forward on repealing the retirement tax that Bill Schuette praised when he said that the tax changes the Republicans passed were good news for Michigan taxpayers. These are the issues that the people at home want us to address. This is what the next governor has to do. Build coalitions, not tear down one another. We've got a great future ahead of us here in Michigan, but it's going to need a leader who can cross the aisle to get things done, and I'm the only one on this stage that has demonstrated that ability.
Mr. Attorney General, 30 seconds.
You know, we heard about this video, and it's been around for a while, but the fact is, this is a race about whether we go forward or we go backwards. And we can't go backward. And, you know, let me clear there. The fact is, I oppose the pension tax. I've always supported coverage for pre-existing conditions. And Gretchen Whitmer is not telling the truth. And if you can't tell the truth, it has a credibility gap. And the fact is, I want to make sure I drive Michigan forward with cutting taxes and lowering insurance rates. That's what people in Michigan are concerned about.
Senator, 30 seconds.
I would just say this. I think that the most stark difference between me and my opponent here is that I do the work when the cameras aren't on. I don't care about credit. I want to get results done, and I will work with anyone who wants to solve a problem. I demonstrated that over and over again with Rick Snyder. You heard my opponent in his opener. He lambasted a governor from 2 governors ago 3 times in his first 2-minute opener. Give me a break. The people of this state want us to solve problems, and we have to work together to get it done.
Let's move on to some of those issues. Senator, the question will go to you first. In 2010, there was quite a fight in Washington, and it finally ended up in the Affordable Care Act being signed. And that Affordable Care Act, as part of that, allowed for expansion of Medicaid, which you both have already referenced here. Here we call it Healthy Michigan. Governor Snyder urged the legislature to work towards that goal. And now there are more than 650,000 people that are on that plan. The two of you had quite a conversation about this, and I want to get to the bottom of the issue tonight. And again, you'll hear this word a lot tonight: specifics. If governor of the state of Michigan, would you maintain this program? Would you modify this program? Or would you eliminate this program?
Well, I would maintain it, Rick. You know, I worked so hard with Rick Snyder, Republican governor. Sure, we had our differences on some important issues, but when he embraced the Affordable Care Act, I partnered with him and worked to make sure it got to his desk, and 680,000 people in our state have health care. Like my friend Patricia from Kalamazoo, who wrote to me not long ago to tell me about how she and her 3 boys just got health care for the first time because of Medicaid expansion here in Michigan. She's finally getting treatment for her diabetes. Her son, Ben, has been diagnosed with autism and is getting the kind of support he needs. He's got a long path, but she's so grateful that he is now getting the kind of support he needs. They are at risk. If Bill Schuette is our next governor, we should believe what he has done, not what he says. And what he has done is filed 9 lawsuits to repeal the Affordable Care Act and rip health care away from people like Patricia and her son, Ben.
Mr. Attorney General, if you were elected governor when it comes to Healthy Michigan, would you keep the program, modify the program, or eliminate the program?
There's a friend of mine named Kaylee Pung who had just a terrible diving accident years ago. Her dad, Mike, is here at the TV station, and she's paralyzed. And she's a spirited person who has a foundation to try to cure paralysis. And she came to a press conference and stood up for me and reaffirmed my support of maintaining coverage for pre-existing conditions. And you know, Obamacare didn't work. Taxes went up, the exchanges failed, and so I filed lawsuits because of its unconstitutionality. But every time I did that, I said I was in favor of maintaining coverage for pre-existing conditions, covering children until they're 26. And so when Gretchen Whitmer says that I take a different view, that's just not true. And the fact is, you have the audacity to go on TV and say that you were fighting big insurance, but you've been captive of big insurance. Even a Democratic colleague says that you were bought off. And the fact is, what you did is take more money than anybody for running for governor in 10 years, and you voted to remove Attorney General authority for oversight on Medigap.
Senator, 30 seconds.
Well, the fact of the matter is, you've been in office for 33 years and you've never done a darn thing to expand health care for people in this state. In fact, you filed 9 lawsuits to pull it away from people. You attacked your Republican opponent in the primary, Brian Kelly, over and over again for supporting Medicaid expansion. You're still fundraising off of the plan to repeal it. And when you talk about Medigap, ask your running mate why she voted for it too, and so did the whole Republican Senate, Rick Jones, as well.
Mr. Attorney General.
Here's the truth. There was no heavy lifting in terms of working across the aisle. What you did is work with every Democratic colleague who wanted Obamacare. So that was really not strenuous activity. The fact is that Obamacare didn't work. The fact is that you've received more money from big insurance than anyone running for governor in the last 10 years. And the fact is, I am in favor of maintaining pre-existing conditions, and you haven't told the truth.
Mr. Attorney General, this question will go first to you. One of our viewers has a question. Martha sent this to woodtv.com. I would like to ask the people running for governor about their opinions and plans for public K-12 education in our state, including funding. Now, that's Martha's question, and I think that many of us with children in the public schools would also like to know what, if anything, can be done at the state level that will make sure that our kids have better skills in math and science and reading like some other states around us. And again, back to Martha's question, How should we be funding schools? Mr. Attorney General.
Well, I appreciate Martha's question. You know, my wife and I and our children went to public schools, and we had a great education. But today, in Michigan, too many schools are failing. And when you see that our third grade reading scores are among the lowest in the nation, that's outrageous, and that has to be changed. As governor, I'm going to grade our schools A through F, provide grants to those schools that are showing improvement, and appoint a literacy director smack dab in the cabinet because of the significance of reading. I'll have a Michigan Reading Foundation as well so that we can provide transportation scholarships because, let's say, your child had a special need, there was a school that had a special program, but transportation impeded it, we could provide a scholarship to assist in that. Now, Gretchen Whitmer, she's been captive of the status quo in Lansing for years and years, and it'll just be the same old approach, and we have to move our third grade reading scores. When I'm governor, Michigan's children will read and we'll have more options and choices for parents.
Senator?
Well, I'm a proud product of Michigan public schools, and I'm an even prouder parent of children in Michigan's public schools. My daughters go to East Lansing High School, and here's what I know. The only question that we as leaders, as parents, as educators should be asking is how are the children doing? Right now in our state, we rank in the bottom 10 in education in our country. The bottom 10. It is unacceptable, and that's why the education plan that I've put on the table is a plan from cradle to career to improve our skills. Tripling the number of literacy coaches, universal early childhood education, supporting people who go into education, and ensuring that every child graduating has a path to a skill that leads them to a high-wage job. My opponent, on the other hand, is the guy who used our taxpayer dollars to go to court and argue that our kids don't have a constitutional right to read. He thinks Betsy DeVos is doing a great job. Bottom 10 is not a great job, and it's not acceptable.
Mr. Attorney General, 30 seconds.
You know, as governor, Michigan's children will read because I'll put emphasis on grading our schools and providing grants for those schools who are showing improvement. You know, America's been described as a shining city on a hill. But if you can't read, then your future's pretty grim and you're out of luck. Now, Gretchen Whitmer, in her 14 years in the legislature, only passed 3 bills, didn't do anything to improve education, and the fact is she's captive of the establishment, and that's just the same approach. I want to make sure that we improve our reading scores and children advance in Michigan, and with greater emphasis on apprenticeships.
Senator?
Well, my friend Bill Schuette here has been in office for 30 out of the last 35 years. He and Betsy DeVos are the establishment in this state. They're the ones that are driving education down in Michigan. As a parent of kids in our public schools, no one is going to fight harder for every child in our state to make sure they're literate and they are on a path to a high-wage job.
Thank you both. Let's turn to jobs. In the state currently we have low unemployment, and I suspect that as governor you would like to maintain that trend. So how would you try to do that, and what would or should the state do to help train workers for thousands of skilled trade jobs that are currently open? And many believe that need will only grow in the future if we have the people with the right skills. Senator?
Yeah, so there's no question that Michigan at one point had the best skilled workforce on the planet. And now we have a skills gap in all paths, whether it's a 4-year degree or a 2-year degree or into the trades, because our leaders cut out funding for higher education when we most needed to make it available for more people. And now we're suffering. That's one of the things that Amazon cited for not keeping Michigan in their top 20 for the HQ2. So we're going to attack the talent gap in Michigan through my Opportunity Scholarship. That is a 2-year debt-free degree toward a community college degree, or using that to bring down the cost of a 4-year degree. Opening up the opportunity to pursue certificates in high school toward the trades. There is not one path that is for everyone, but every Michigander deserves to get on a path to a high-wage skill, and that's how we grow our economy in a way that grows our family incomes too.
Mr. Attorney General.
Well, I think everybody remembers the lost decade of Jennifer Granholm. 15% unemployment, 500,000 jobs left this state, and people left the state in droves. Now, we've come back, but we're still 300,000 jobs short of where Michigan was before the Great Recession. So here's what we need to do. I was at a school in Madison Heights where the principal and superintendent showed me his career lab, his apprenticeship program, where people with smart kids with smart minds and agile hands have an opportunity to be career ready. we need to make sure that parents have options. Not everybody needs to go to California and work for as a software designer. We need to make sure that they have opportunities for welders and plumbers, important jobs. Now, in the 14 years that Gretchen Whitmer served in the legislature, hasn't done anything to expand apprenticeships. We ought to relax seat time so the kids can get more credit for working. We need to have those who have a special skill as teachers and working their profession have time to teach our children. And Gretchen Whitmer has done nothing in 14 years for apprenticeships.
Senator, 30 seconds.
So here's one of the things that I want to do. I want to get the MEDC to work on a 52-week job split. So we are throwing shovels in the ground and creating jobs and building here in Michigan. But I also want to make sure that Michigan comes into 2018. Bigotry is bad for business, and it is time for us to amend our Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act so that everyone in the LGBTQ community can be safe in their workplace and in their home under the civil rights law.
30 seconds, Mr. Attorney General.
This issue about apprenticeships and skilled trades all goes down to this fundamental question of jobs and progress. I want to build on the success of the last 8 years, and I want to make sure we cut our taxes and lower auto insurance rates. And Gretchen Whitmer has an extreme agenda of more taxes, which would crush economic development, and more mandates that would shut down growth in our state. And we'd see people moving away. That's the extreme agenda of Gretchen Whitmer, and I want to go forward with jobs and progress.
Candidates, I want to turn your attention to Flint and the more than 4-year-old water crisis there. The ongoing process of replacing old infrastructure remind us that there are untold other water and sewer and underground systems that need to be dealt with. First, where are we in Flint? What has been accomplished? What remains to be done? And as governor, how would you address the rest of the underground issues that will come with a multi-billion-dollar price tag, starting with you, Mr. Attorney General?
You know, Flint is a city where too many people play politics with the people who live there. And I know families in Flint today that only drink water from a plastic bottle and wash their fruits and vegetables only with a plastic bottle. Gretchen doesn't do that. I don't do that. But people in Flint do. And that's why I had an independent investigation so that we could determine what laws, if any, were broken. And some people said I should have just swept it away and paid no attention to it, but that would have violated my oath of office as Attorney General to enforce the law. I make no apologies to those people who complain about that I filed charges in Flint. You know why? Because 12 people died and thousands of kids were poisoned. And I'm going to make sure that there's accountability and justice for families in Flint. Now, Gretchen Whitmer, in her 14 years in the legislature, did nothing to help the situation in terms of water, although she did sponsor one bill that passed to regulate swimming pools. And that's the water she cares about, not the citizens of Flint.
Senator, 60 seconds.
So I think about the parents of Flint every time I turn on my tap. I was in Flint at church a couple months ago, and I was talking to a mom. She pulled her sleeve up and showed me the rash up and down her arm from taking a shower that morning before church. She only bathes her kids once a week because they all break out like that. My plan to fix the problem in Flint starts with expediting the replacement of the pipes, refurbishing the replacement of bottled water until every pipe is replaced, and real wraparound supports for the children of Flint. 8,000 children in Flint brush their teeth every night with water that had lead on it. And you know what? They called the Attorney General. They asked 15 times. They filed complaints over the course of 2 years and were ignored. He signed off on the initial order that permitted the switch to the Flint River. But for that, maybe they wouldn't have been brushing their teeth that long with leaded water.
Mr. Attorney General, 30 seconds.
I met with pastors a couple of weeks ago in Flint, and they shared with me their feeling that, have no confidence in state government. They feel gut punched by state government. And they want the pipes restored. They want to replace the pipes and restore confidence in government. That's what I'll do as governor. Now, listen, Gretchen Whitmer only passed 3 bills in 14 years. Now she wants to be governor. That just doesn't work. And the fact is, I did the right thing in Flint. Anything else is just nonsense.
Senator, 30 seconds.
Well, I feel like it's important to correct the record. Bill's party has been in control 20 out of the last 28 years. I always served in the minority. But you know what? You can get a lot done if you don't care about credit. I know he doesn't understand that concept, but I do. I cross the aisle and I work with people to solve problems. I don't care about credit. I care about you. And getting things done for this state is more important than any credit that I could ever seek. We've got to clean up the water situation for the people of Flint. And it starts with paying attention to them, not ignoring them for over 2 years.
Well, as a matter of information for the candidates, we are halfway through this debate already, and it seems almost impossible. There's still this many questions to go, so I'll move through them as quickly as I can. Another big issue when it comes to water safety, obviously, is the discovery of emerging contaminants here in West Michigan, in fact, all over the state. We've heard a lot about PFAS. We've seen widespread contamination here and in other places, and concerns about things like Line 5 and the Straits of Mackinac pipelines that are threatening clean water. So, if you're elected, what would your plan be to clean up PFAS and other dangers to Michigan's drinking water? Senator?
Well, clean drinking water is a fundamental human right, and we are the state that is home to 21% of the Earth's fresh water. And yet we've got community after community that is finding out that they can't drink their water. This is the biggest looming health crisis that we are facing as a state right now. And that's why, as governor, I'm going to create a department called the Great Lakes and Freshwater to oversee our drinking water. I'll have a drinking water ombudsman at the cabinet level so that when someone complains, they won't get ignored for 2 years. I will make sure that we are using the finest cutting edge science and partnering with our research universities. And there's some great things going on at MSU. But this is a crisis, and we cannot wait. A report was authored to the MED, or the Michigan Environmental Department 6 years ago, and no one took action. We are just on the tip of the iceberg finding out about this PFAS, and it's from Kalamazoo to Kent to Iosco County and well beyond.
Mr. Attorney General.
You know, here, we in Michigan, whether it's you like dropping a fly line in a stream, or you're a boater, you like to swim on a beach, or you want to see a sunset on Lake Michigan or a sunrise on Lake Huron, we have this huge responsibility of environmental stewardship. It's in our DNA. And from my standpoint, here are some important issues for stewardship. Number one, we have to have no diversion from the Great Lakes, and I've fought on that, and I'm a fighter concerning that. Second, we have to make sure we maintain our high discharge standards in Michigan that are higher than the federal government, and we can't change that. And I believe that the Line 5 tunnel will make sure an opportunity that we can take no risk of any leaks between the Straits of Mackinac. Now, in terms of PFAS, we've seen that in Rockford, we've seen that in Parchment and Kalamazoo, and over in Alpena area. We need to make sure we have all our resources from the DEQ centered towards that. Now, Gretchen Whitmer wants to build more government. We just need to have government run properly, no more taxes and no more government.
Senator, 30 seconds.
Well, Bill, I'm sorry, this is not about recreation. This is about drinking water. This is about people's lives. Governor Snyder understands how imperative this is that we move swiftly. He asked you to file a lawsuit back in July, and you still haven't done it. We've got to take action. And it's not just about taking action when the cameras show up. It's about doing the right thing, seeking justice for people, and cleaning up our drinking water here in the state of Michigan.
Mr. Attorney General, 30 seconds.
Listen, I'm the only one on the stage who's taken action to protect the citizens of Flint and provide accountability. I've done that. I make no apologies for it. And also, the Department of Environmental Quality is providing information to the Department of Attorney General on that PFAS lawsuit, and we'll make sure we provide justice for citizens of Michigan. You've served in the legislature for 14 years and did nothing to help the environment. You've done nothing.
All right. With specificity, I don't have to tell you about the roads in the state of Michigan. I don't have to tell anybody that drives on the roads in the state of Michigan. We know the condition. So, with detail, how much additional money do you believe, if in fact you do believe, it will take to spend on Michigan's roads to get them in some kind of an acceptable condition? And specifically, where would that money come from, starting with you, Mr. Attorney General?
You know, nobody runs on the roads, travels the roads more than I do in the 83 counties and 2 peninsulas of this state. And the point here is Michigan must be an economic leader, and we can't have third world roads if we want to achieve that goal. And we need to make sure that our roads are the same quality as the cars that we build, design, and research here in the state of Michigan. And we need to do the following 4 things very specifically. Number 1, we need to have an audit, a complete audit of MDOT on how they allocate road funding in Michigan. Secondly, we need to have guarantees and warranties for our roads. We do that for every product we buy. We ought to do that for roads and bridges. Thirdly, we need to have more money coming back from Washington, our federal government. Instead of being a donee state, we need to get money back. My relationship with the White House, I'll bring it back to Michigan. And then number 4, very importantly, we have $1.2 billion planned to invest in the roads till 2021. I'll make it a priority to add to that. Now, Gretchen Whitmer wants to have a 20-cent gas increase.
Senator? It's ridiculous.
No, it's not.
It's nonsense, and you know it.
No, that's what you said.
I have talked to people all across our state. There is a conversation that I tell often because it's why I say it's time to fix the damn roads. Speaking with a mom who is telling me that the number 1 concern she has is the roads because she had to come up with hundreds of dollars out of her family budget, money that could have been used for child care or rent, to fix her car because she hit a pothole that absolutely devastated the car, and it was money that she couldn't just put on a credit card. This is one of the biggest, most important issues that we've got to tackle, and I put a real plan on the table. It is going to cost $3 billion. To say you're just going to find the dollars and cents in the budget is phony. One economist said you'd have to hope he has magic because he described his plan as BS, and I don't think he was talking about his initials. The fact of the matter is we need serious solutions to problems. We need a governor who can cross the aisle and build coalitions. That's what I have done during my time in the legislature, and that's exactly what I offer as governor.
In each of your 30 seconds, I'd still like to know where the money's going to come from.
Listen, there's a warning signal now because Gretchen Whitmer says she wants to find $3 billion worth of money for roads. That means when she says she's going to fix the roads, she's going to raise your darn taxes. She wants to raise gas taxes, and it's an extreme agenda that would drive us back. I want us to make sure that roads are a priority, and every aspect of government will have to contribute to enhance our funding for roads. But we don't need to raise taxes. That's Gretchen Whitmer's economic collapse plan.
Senator?
No one's buying it because here's the thing. We're all paying a Republican road tax right now every time we replace a windshield or replace a tire. I'm creating a Rebuild Michigan Infrastructure Bank. I'll fund it with $2 billion from state money. It draws down $1 billion from the feds. And we'll get it done with the right mix and the right materials. We'll keep you and your family safe on the road, and you can stop spending hundreds to fix your car because we'll get to work fixing the roads the right way and put people to work doing it.
Moving on to another very serious subject, Larry Nassar. It is a name that has become synonymous with evil, vile acts towards student athletes and others. The heroic story of hundreds of his survivors have been inspiring. His imprisonment for life is some solace for those who have been so dramatically impacted by his heinous acts. But you are both attorneys. You both had some purview at some point over some of these allegations as they surface. You've had a disagreement about that. You can talk about that. I don't really care. Here's what my real question is. The question is, have we done anything as a state, or is there anything that we can do to the degree possible to make sure that a sexual predator like this is not allowed to terrorize students in a public university or any other atmosphere to the best of our abilities? Senator?
Absolutely. Not only can we must. We must. I was one of the first people to call on an independent investigation for what happened at Michigan State University. I was the Ingham County prosecutor when the calls started coming in. We worked 24/7 to execute warrants. And because of our work, we were able to find the evidence that put Larry Nassar away for his first 60 days. But I didn't want to get my political future tied up in something that would have meant I didn't do the right thing. It meant working with the police and acknowledging that the Attorney General's office was the right place to prosecute the state crimes. It was best for the victims, and I stand by that position. I'm never going to put my political interests ahead of that of the people that I represent, the people that I serve. I'm proud of the work that we did, but we need a governor who's going to step up for survivors. And as a survivor, as the mom of 2 daughters who are getting ready to go to college, I have a plan to keep our campuses safe, to believe survivors, to have a reporting system, and to educate people in law enforcement how to support survivors.
Mr. Attorney General.
You know, the situation in Michigan State University is all about the survivors. Each survivor went through just a horrible, horrible experience. And as Attorney General, I required that each and every young woman who wanted to share her victim impact statement could, as a condition of Larry Nassar pleading guilty. And when each one of these survivors stepped forward, they each were profiles encouraged and encouraged others to come forward as well. Over 250 women came forward and shared their story, and each empowered the next one to come as well. And it changed the course and culture of sexual assault in Michigan and across the country. And I prosecuted Larry Nassar and put him behind bars for life. And they were in the middle of an investigation to make sure that those who were a part of that whole situation, that they're on trial as well. Now, Gretchen Whitmer failed to do her job. She did not file charges against Larry Nassar, and she did not refer them to me. Jim Dunlap, Chief of Police of MSU, did that. You didn't do your job.
Senator Whitmer, 30 seconds.
Well, the Attorney General knows that's nonsense, and he was not in any of the meetings he professes to know what happened in. The fact of the matter is, I did my job, and I did not put my political future ahead of the interests of the survivors. I am disgusted that the AG is continuing to weaponize the Nassar case to use against me. The survivors have asked him to stop doing it. I've asked him to stop doing it. Every time you do it, it rips open the wounds for people to see the face of their sexual abuser on television, and you need to stop that, Bill.
Mr. Attorney General, 30 seconds.
You know, the Nassar case is all about survivors, and each case is horrible and challenging. But the White family in my hometown of Midland came to me because their daughter was abused. And they went on TV to explain the fact that I did my job. And that's their opinion. And the fact is that you didn't do your job. You didn't file charges, and you're not telling the truth about the fact that you didn't refer it to me. Jim Dunlap, Chief of Police of MSU, did.
The fallout from the conversation about what to do with people in our country without documentation or have come here illegally has been raging for 2 years, actually longer than that, because all during the 2016 campaign, you couldn't go to a Donald Trump rally without hearing that chant of "build that wall." Again, this is largely a federal issue, and I understand that, but we did have a question from viewer Kenneth, who wants to know, will you enforce laws on legal immigration, and will you block sanctuary cities in Michigan? I would further add, should the state of Michigan, the Michigan State Police, and other law enforcement agencies cooperate with ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or refuse to share information with them? Mr. Attorney General?
You know, our country needs to have a hopeful immigration policy and a welcoming immigration policy. Whenever you meet a new American who's achieved his or her citizenship, it makes you feel proud. And when I've done that, you go away with a great, great feeling. Now listen, here's what we need to do. We need to make sure that we have a set of rules and everyone plays by the rules. We need to protect our border, and there's only one system of law, and there can be no room for sanctuary cities in Michigan, and when I'm governor, there'll be no sanctuary cities. But Gretchen Whitmer, if she has her way, Michigan will be a sanctuary state. She wants to disband ICE. She's said that. And her running mate, Garland Gilchrist, wants to eliminate the Department of Homeland Security that is in charge of border protection. That's extreme. That's shameful. And that's not what should happen in Michigan. When I'm governor, there'll be no sanctuary cities, and I'll make sure that ICE is on the border helping Michigan.
Senator Whitmer.
I know Bill Schuette is desperately trying to fix his place in the polls by throwing all of this nonsense out there. But the fact of the matter is, I've never said that we should abolish ICE, because you know what? That doesn't fix the problem. The problem's in the White House. We need a comprehensive immigration policy, absolutely. And I understand the anxiety that people feel looking at a broken immigration system, worried about Michigan jobs. It is time for Congress and the president to work on a comprehensive immigration strategy. But I think it's also important for us to recognize immigrants built the state of Michigan. Immigrants came, the Finns came to the Upper Peninsula for mining jobs. The Dutch came here to West Michigan. Middle Easterners went to Dearborn for jobs at Ford Motor Company. That was the great promise of Michigan. That's our great legacy. And that's something that is a huge strength. The fact of the matter is, though, as a governor, I will never sit by and watch Donald Trump rip mothers and children apart. I will never sit by the way that our Attorney General did. He did not stand up to Donald Trump because, in fact, when Donald Trump says jump, Bill Schuette says how high.
Mr. Attorney General, 30 seconds.
The issue here is immigration, and the fact is that Gretchen Whitmer did say she wanted to disband ICE, and it's an extreme approach. And another example of being extreme is Garland Gilchrist. This is a person that she selected to be lieutenant governor, and this is a guy who has anti-Semitic rants, anti-Israel rants, and anti-evangelical rants, and pro-Hamas support, which is a terrorist group by the State Department. That's disgraceful. That's shameful. Garland Gilchrist, wherever he is, ought to debate Lisa Posthumous Lyons.
30 seconds, Senator.
Again, more desperate attempts from a guy who's lagging in the polls. The fact of the matter is, he's the one that hangs out with anti-Semites like Ted Nugent and Steve Bannon, who authored the anti-Muslim travel ban. You know what? We deserve better. We need a governor who sees value in every person that comes to this state, who's going to stand up and fight to keep this state safe and make this a destination so that people come to Michigan for opportunity, so our kids stay and our families can get ahead here.
Senator, this next question will start with you, and it's about auto no-fault insurance. Now, this is an issue that I've covered ever since I've been covering politics here in the state. It has been visited and revisited in Lansing, and each time the status quo prevails, and those of us paying for insurance generally end up paying more. Now, this is my observation. You do not have to agree with it, but hospitals, insurance companies, trial lawyers, you name it, big moneyed interest seem to make it impossible to get reform. So please tell me, as governor, what kind of pressure would you bring to bear on the interested parties and the legislature to get no-fault reform, and what would that reform look like? Limiting lifetime benefits in exchange for lower rates, returning to a tort system like 38 other states have? What direction would you go with auto insurance reform? Senator?
Yeah, so we have to bring down the cost of auto insurance in the state of Michigan. I meet people all the time who first look at their insurance bill before they even look at a car note. It is crippling families' ability to get ahead. And so in the first 6 months of next year, I want to sign a bill into law that actually lowers rates. But that means that we've got to have some cost containment. So we've got to root out fraud, that we have to insist that insurance companies pay their bills on time and treat their policyholders fairly. But we also need transparency around the catastrophic claims fund. And we still have to make sure that we are protecting people that are tragically hurt in auto accidents. But one of the most crushing things that people are confronting is redlining. This is the discriminatory practice that insurance companies use to decide rates based on non-driving factors like your education level, your marital status, your zip code. They should not be allowed to do that. And when we take that ability away, that's when we will see rates drop.
Mr. Attorney General.
I was in a parade in Macomb County and St. Clair Shores just before Memorial Day, and a guy came up to me on the parade route twice and grabbed me by the shirt and said, "Schuette, you need to cut auto insurance rates," and shared the story of his daughter not moving to Michigan because of the high cost of auto insurance. It acts as a barrier to entry, and we need to grow our state, and we need to lower auto insurance rates. And here's what we need to do. We need to stop insurance fraud. Secondly, we need to stop the frivolous lawsuits of the trial lawyers and give people across the state options and choices for coverage. Now, Gretchen Whitmer, in her 14 years in the legislature, only passed 3 bills, did nothing on auto insurance, and is captive of big insurance, and, you know, she's in the pocket of the trial lawyers. And so here's the choice. Do you want real auto insurance reform? Lisa Posthumous Lyons and I, with our experience of work in the legislature, Garland Gilchrist, if we can find him, doesn't have that experience, and Gretchen Whitmer will be part of the status quo.
Senator, 30 seconds.
Well, it's too bad you weren't in a position for the last 8 years to do something about it. Oh, wait, you were Attorney General. You could have sued for transparency. You could have sued for price gouging. But you know what? Governor Snyder got so sick of waiting for you to do your job, he started an anti-fraud authority just in the last couple of months. Give me a break, Bill. If you'd been doing your jobs before the cameras showed up, people might have better rates right now.
30 seconds, Mr. Attorney General.
And this goes down to this contrast of which vision do you want to have for Michigan? An extreme agenda of Gretchen Whitmer, or the paycheck agenda of Bill Schuette, which means cutting our taxes, lowering our insurance rates, and driving Michigan forward. It's about whether we go forward or backwards, and we need to go forward. We can't go backwards to the lost decade of Jennifer Granholm, and Gretchen Whitmer was one of the main architects of those failed economic policies. We can't go back.
Mr. Attorney General, this question goes first to you. There are 3 ballot proposals on this year's ballot statewide, and one of them won't, I guess I should point out that none of them will get the kind of attention that marquee races like the race for governor, but they really have an impact to the potential to impact the state in a lot of ways. And that first proposal would legalize recreational marijuana. So here's what I want to know. It's pretty simple. Do you support this proposal or not? And try with as much detail as possible to explain why.
You know, across Michigan today, we have a huge opioid crisis where children get caught in the grip of addiction. I had a friend of mine who shared with me that his son was an addict, and he encouraged me to go learn more about this issue. This was several years ago, and I did that. And when you go to a recovery center, it just breaks your heart. I called the guy back, and we cried on the phone when he shared with me that he had to revive his son, who was collapsed on the floor because of opioids. And because of the situation we have with opioids and the grave concern I have about it, I'm opposed to Proposal 1 because I don't think we should put more drugs in the hands of children. And that's my viewpoint on this issue. And the other 2 proposals, I'm going to vote no on them.
Senator Whitmer.
Well, so I supported the medical marijuana back in 2008, and I was a co-chair of the embryonic stem cell initiative as well, because I took care of my mom at the end of her life, and I know what the promise of cures or the promise of relief during treatment would mean. Unfortunately, even though we the people voted yes, we had an attorney general who didn't want to promulgate rules and make it workable. And so now people are going to the ballot for recreational, and I'm going to be a yes vote. And as governor, I'm going to promulgate rules so that product does not get in the hands of our kids. We make sure that we collect the taxes, put the money into infrastructure and education and health care the way that it is supposed to be. I'm amazed that my opponent here is bringing up opioids, and I'm glad that he is, because the biggest threat to going backward on opioids in Michigan would be eliminating Medicaid expansion. It has created treatment opportunity for people, and his position against Medicaid expansion will make the opioid crisis worse in the state.
Mr. Attorney General, 30 seconds.
You know, if any one of these 3 ballot proposals pass, then I'll be duty bound, and I will make sure that we implement into the full spirit and letter of the law. You know, the big issue for Michigan is about whether we go forward or back, or whether we raise taxes or cut taxes. Jennifer Granholm and her disciple, Gretchen Whitmer, want to raise taxes. I want to cut taxes and make sure we have more jobs and bigger paychecks. That's Michigan's future.
Senator, 30 seconds.
Well, Michigan's future needs a governor that knows how to get things done, who doesn't get caught up in credit, and who doesn't just start working when the cameras show up. My opponent, Bill Schuette, is the one who sponsored the one-in-the-nation law, drug immunity law, that means when a drug company's product injures you and me, we're the only people in the country that can't sue them. It is holding us back as individuals, but also as a state, because as states pursue drug manufacturers for getting people addicted to opioids, we in Michigan might be the only state that can't recover thanks to him.
I'm suing all those drug companies with 40 other attorney generals.
Candidates, we have come towards the end of this round, and we're going to have to greatly curtail the rebuttal. You'll have your 60 seconds, but the rebuttals will be really short. So here we go. You've both been promising to remove or roll back taxes. Senator Whitmer, you would like to repeal an income tax on pensions. And the Attorney General has said he would like to roll back the overall income tax from 4.25 to 3.9%. So I don't know if you support each other's tax rollbacks, but can you tell me how much your plan would cost the state and how you would make that money up if you were able to do it, starting with you, Senator?
Sure. Well, a budget is a statement of your priorities. And in the first term of the Snyder administration, the Republicans pushed through a pension tax. I voted against it because I know that a pension is supposed to be deferred compensation. It's money that is supposed to be a guarantee at the end of a long life worked, playing by the rules. And the Republican pension tax has pushed so many seniors into dire straits because they changed the rules on them so late in life. You can't go back and get another job putting out fires like so many of these great public servants were doing. So that's why I oppose the pension tax. It is about $300 million, and you know what? I'm committed to seeing it through and signing that bill when it gets to my desk. It's the best thing that we can do to help seniors in this state because the Republicans turned the rules upside down. My opponent said of that whole package of bills that it was great news for taxpayers, and I disagree. I'm going to repeal the pension tax.
Mr. Attorney General.
I met a guy the other day who's a home builder and reminded me about the importance of not going back to the lost decade where we had higher taxes, homes are underwater, home values dropped, and a lot of people just left their keys on the kitchen table and walked away. And the fact is, I'm opposed to the pension tax. I want to repeal it, and that's why I have the support of the Detroit Firefighters Association and the Detroit Police Officers Association in Michigan supporting me.
Quickest rebuttal in the history of debates, 10 seconds.
Well, I'm proud to have the Fraternal Order of Police and the Michigan Association of Police Organizations backing me. They know that I've been on their side from day one, whether it's the pension tax or the ability to negotiate or collectively bargain. I support them, and that's why they support me.
10 seconds for the Attorney General.
Gretchen Whitmer wants to raise your taxes. I'm going to protect your wallet. That's the big difference about going forward or going backward.
You know, I'm kind of like a kid at Christmas time anticipating debates, and it's like Christmas. It goes by so quickly. We're done. We already have established the order of closing statements. So, Mr. Attorney General, if you would take your 2 minutes.
Thank you. Well, election season is upon us, and soon people will make their decision about who is Michigan's next governor. And even though the choice is between Gretchen Whitmer and me, it's far more significant. It's about you and your families and Michigan's future, and about whether we go forward or go back. You know, we can't afford to go back. We have to go forward. As Attorney General, I have the independent record of accomplishment and the skill set and experience to make sure we build on the success of the last 8 years. I put Larry Nassar behind bars for the rest of his life. I led the fight against human trafficking, and now young women who are forced to have sex are treated as victims, not criminals. Now, Gretchen Whitmer, she served in the legislature for 14 years and only got 3 bills passed. Now, I have a paycheck agenda for bigger paychecks and more jobs for Michigan. 1, eliminating the Granholm-Whitmer income tax increase, cutting your auto insurance rates, improving schools so children can read, rebuilding our roads and bridges, and affordable and accessible health care. Now, Gretchen Whitmer, her plan, in a word, it's an extreme agenda, a sharp turn to the left. Tax increases, which will crush job creation, mandates, which will, force economic growth to stop, and government-run health care, which will be in your taxes, and bureaucrats choose your doctors, not you. And that's wrong. Those are the ingredients to go backward. We have to go forward. You know, and I reject those who say that Michigan's future, those best days are behind us. Nonsense. I'm optimistic about Michigan, a Michigan with big hopes and bold aspirations, and I want Michigan to be the best place for families to plant their flag, raise their future, and build their future and their children in the years to come. And that means a Michigan with more people, more jobs, and bigger paychecks. And I'm asking for your vote, please. You know, Michigan, we can win again, and we will.
Senator, your final thoughts.
Well, I think we all know we're living in precarious times in our country, in our state, in our neighborhoods. Many of us are feeling anxious or angry and worried about the future. Yet I know we can turn it all around. We can make Michigan a place where our kids stay, where our families can thrive, and other people come to for opportunity again. But it won't happen if we keep ignoring the problems that we face. It won't happen if we turn away from too many families living in poverty, communities that can't drink their water, an education system that's been underfunded and attacked. And it won't happen if we keep swerving around potholes. We have to get to work. The choice between Bill Schuette and me, it's a stark one. I worked so hard to expand Medicaid. I worked with Rick Snyder to do it. Bill Schuette filed 9 lawsuits to undo that, to eliminate protections for people with pre-existing conditions. I'm fighting for my kids and for your children because I believe every child in this state has a birthright to a great education. Bill Schuette went to court and said kids don't have a constitutional right to read. He admires Betsy DeVos's agenda. I put a real plan on the table to clean up our drinking water and protect this resource that makes us so unique. Bill Schuette ignored 15 complaints from people from Flint for over 2 years. While they needed an attorney general, he was nowhere on duty. And I've put a real plan on the table to fix the damn roads. Bill Schutte's plan is 2 steps: get elected and then figure it out. We deserve better, and we can do better. If you're ready for a governor who knows how to roll up her sleeves and tackle tough issues, build coalitions to do it, and who will govern for us all instead of just the few, I hope you'll vote for me on November 6th. We announced a group called Republicans and Independents for Whitmer, people who were leaders in the Milliken, Engler, and Snyder administrations who've endorsed me. I hope you'll consider joining us.
Candidates, thank you for being here. I don't think people understand the difficulty in getting two very busy schedules to come together all at once, and the negotiation that you and your campaigns did in order to make this happen is greatly appreciated by those of us who think that these debates and these forums are important to inform voters during a very important election. There's some other folks I want to thank too. Our media partners all over the state who have carried this tonight mean that people every place in Michigan now have a better understanding of where both of you are, and that too, I think, is vitally important. I'd like to thank our studio audience for doing exactly what I asked them to do. I'd like to thank the best production department in the state of Michigan and beyond for putting on this production tonight. But most of all, I want to thank our viewers at home, because it's for them that we try to get this information out there. We are only 25 days away from what will be a change election in this state. The change that you make depends on how you vote. Now, don't go away. The debate and the conversation continues live just minutes from now on our Facebook page. I'll have some instant analysis. We'll have some interviews, and we will continue this conversation now. Audience, for the final time tonight, I should say we'll continue that tonight at 10 on WXSP, 11 on Wood TV. Now you may applaud. Thank you all.
C-SPAN is your primary source for